Okay, welcome, everybody. This is Coach Art, and I'm just so excited to do another training tonight. Thank you for joining me here. I know that you always have the opportunity to join, or do other things, spend time with your family, friends, do some other exciting types of activities, but you choose to join my humble training here. And so I greatly appreciate you guys always spending time. You guys always are amazing. For those who are brand new, welcome. For those who are returning trainees, then welcome back. And what I want to do is, I always say this. First of all, first thing is I am one of those coaches that love reactions. So if you could do me a favor, if you can hear me well, if you could give me a thumbs up by giving me a thumbs up. There's usually a reaction bar there. You can click on it, and if you can give me a thumbs up that you can hear me, there they are. Yay. Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. And then another thing always to test is if you do hear me, and what I'd like to see is if you could give me, and I always say is that whenever I'm doing these, I always like to see if students or students and their families there it is to give me a heart. And what I do is give me a heart whenever you hear something from me that is really interesting, that you love, that you think is great, great information. So if you guys can give me a heart right now, love to see that. Okay, great, awesome. So I know that you guys are there. Lastly, with respect to, and if you can do this in the chat, if you could tell me if you're a parent or if you are a student, and then what year of graduation. Okay, so if you could do that in the chat, that would be incredible so that I kind of understand and know what the makeup is of the. Okay, so we got some 26ers here, which is great. If you guys can let me know if you're a parent or 26. Ooh, looks like 20. I got a 28, which is great. That's fine too. Okay, good. Okay. So I have some 26ers, which is good. So this is very relevant, but it's also very relevant today of what I'm going to be going through. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if you all, again, could do me a favor and just let me know if you can see my screen by giving me a thumbs up, that would be incredible. Awesome. You guys are great today. Awesome. Thank you so much. And then if you have any questions, by all means, go ahead. You can add them to the chat or you can add them to the Q&A section. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And today I am going to be talking about a quite interesting topic. And I actually haven't done this one before, but I've helped, of course, hundreds and thousands of students with this. But and it's one that is very interesting, which is the why this college. I would also kind of add to it's basically the why essay. And what we mean by the why essay is basically, um, you know, why this college, why this major. That's a pretty consistent question that is asked by a lot of the private schools. Now, the UCs, which we deal with a lot of the UCs, University of California, they don't actually have this question, okay? But a lot of the schools that you're going to be going for that are private schools or that are outside the UC system, they normally will ask this type of question of why college, why major, okay? So today we're going to go ahead and break that, down one of the most important and the most, frankly, overlooked essays. Okay, a lot of students, they take it for granted and they don't really write it very well. So if you've ever written a version that starts like, "Oh, it's in a great city and has a great reputation," then definitely this is for you because if you write it that way, you most likely will not get the attention of the actual reader of your essays. Okay, so what we're going to cover today is why does the why college or why major essay matter? Okay, we're going to cover the do's and don'ts. how to get it started, the essay itself, and then what to watch out for, and then, and I'll finish off with final tips and basically any questions that you may have. So, why does this actual essay matter? And there's a couple of things. First of all, the schools actually use this as sometimes often a tiebreaker. So when admissions officers, when they see very similar applicants, they will, of course, go to the essays to kind of differentiate between those and use this as a distinguishing factor to break the tie of whether they're going to accept you or not. Okay. So that's why, frankly, I know we say the why essays, but any of the essays are very important, but this is even important as well. Okay. Secondly, what happens here is this really demonstrates the student's genuine interest. And what I mean by that, if you have a strong why essay, it really demonstrates that you've thought through your goals and then the school's offerings and how they pair with one another. Okay. So a very well written why college essay can give a very strong picture to the reader of why you really belong there. Okay. And then lastly, there's a thing called yield prediction. Okay. So, what yields are is that schools want to know the yield capacity, or the yield prediction, meaning how many students are actually going to accept the acceptances that they're given from that school. So, schools want to admit students that will likely to enroll. Okay. And so this essay really gives them that opportunity to find out if that student really knows about the school and that they can really exhibit and show why they really fit into that school. Okay. And then that translates into really having them predict what they call yield. Okay. Their yield, meaning the students that will actually choose to go to that school. Okay. All right. So, so the next thing here is okay. So let's kind of go through the do's and the don'ts of writing the why essay. So, first of all, okay, here are a couple things. Um, please, 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 when we're talking about cliches, do not, and frankly, I see this all the time, and again, nothing against the students that have written this, but they use cliches like, "Oh, I love the weather. I love the environment. It's ranked number 5 in business. I've always wanted to live in New York." Well, guess what? Those are just absolute cliches, okay? And I'm telling you, thousands and thousands of students that are writing or writing this essay are going to say the same thing. But the one thing about that is it's great. Okay, I love the weather, but who cares? Like, what does that, the weather, because if you say you love the snowy weather, well, guess what? There are schools in, across the nation that have snowy weather. Okay. Or maybe there, if you like, say, I like sunny weather. Well, guess what? All of West Coast is sunny. Okay. So that's where you want to make sure that you stay away and not write about cliches. Okay. Another thing is that you want to make sure that you don't get caught into what I call the copy paste trap. Okay. So what I mean by that is you don't want to take the why essay and then just copy and paste it for 20 schools. Okay. The reason why I say this is because then you're really not personalizing that essay and really showing how the essay of that college really matches who you are. Okay. So the thing is that now, not to say that you can't use some material from those essays in order to help you write it, but what you don't literally want to do is copy and paste the exact um, text that you've done and then change a little bit of it. Because the problem here is then you may use more generalities to fit the 20 schools than you use, specifics. And then lastly, do not give just empty praise. Oh, your campus is so beautiful. Okay, well, you know what? That's great that the campus is so beautiful, but guess what? There are thousands of campuses that are amazingly beautiful. Okay. So it really doesn't show connection. Okay. It really doesn't. So that's one of the things where, stay away from cliches, don't do the copy and paste, and stay away from overwhelming praise because they already know, the readers already know their campus. Okay. What they want to know is, why do you want to go to that college? Okay. And who are you, and how do you connect to that campus? Okay. Now, high level, what are you going to do? Okay, so first of all, do your homework. Okay, you want to know what makes that college unique, so you need to research the programs, you need to research the professors, you need to research the unique resources that are at that college. And when I say research, okay, I keep on telling this to so many students. Do not do the again, I tell them this, don't do this, is just take the information from the first page of the website. Okay. That is a big no-no. And the reason why is that first page of the website is so general that if you just, I see this all the time, students will just grab whatever's on the first page of the website, pop it into their actual essay, and guess what? It's too general. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to dig two or three or maybe even four levels deep into the website to find the nuggets. Okay. Secondarily, be personal and purposeful. So you want to make sure that you're aligning your academic goals, your social goals, your personal goals to what the college offers. Okay. That is the goal. That is the crux of how to write these essays. Because if you can go ahead and say a very unique thing, like for example, is, let's say that you are into let's say student rights, and you say that there is an advocacy group, a specific advocacy group about let's say student mental health advocacy group at the school, and because you have been a pioneer of that in your high school, you really want to continue that. That is very, very personal and purposeful. Okay. Versus saying, oh, well, I just like the campus. Okay. And then that's what I was talking about here. Is the next thing is highlight your fit. Okay. So what you're doing now is you match and mention the specific opportunities, values, or campus culture. So it kind of goes along with making it personal and then matching that up. Okay. So the best essays make the reader say, wow, this student really belongs here, because you have very specific type of a very specific type of goal, and it matches what the school can offer. Okay. All right. So how do we get started in trying to develop this type of essay? So first of all, I have some type of research formula. Okay. And so the research formula is, first of all, you go ahead and go to the websites. And what I mean by the websites, you don't just go to the general websites, you go to the department websites, and you look at the different majors, and you look at the different minors, and you look at the different unique courses that are offered. Okay. And why, and or maybe some type of standout courses or concentrations that is very specific to what you are looking for. But what that means here is that those majors, minors, unique courses, that's where you have to really be introspective to kind of figure out also, is that in line with the type of majors or maybe career that you want to. So again, going to the specific department websites or departments, or the website of the school, and then digging deep into departments is where you're going to find those nuggets of that unique courses and standout courses. Now, faculty bios, research their interests, research the recent work, labs, published work. But I will caution you, okay? I will caution you. Some people will say, oh, to mention faculty, but actually, why I would say is to research the faculty is to look and find out about their work. But it's not necessarily good to say, oh, I want to go to the school because Mr. Smith is there. And the reason why is because if you do that, then what happens if Professor Smith is not there when you is no longer there when you provide your application, then the reader's going to say, well, Mr. Smith's no longer here, so are you still interested in the school? But if you mention Mr. Smith's research project and the project that they're doing, make sure that that research project is still active, or that it still has been impactful or making impact on or so. So it's okay to mention their name as long as you're saying is you're interested in the work, but not necessarily the specific person, because that person may not be there. Another thing is to look at the student publications or club pages, okay? Look for different articles, look at the different events that are going on, look at the newsletters, look at the initiatives that they're doing, and see if there's things there that are very specific, that could interest you in this, and that could really pair off the goals and the needs that you have. And then lastly, look at the campus initiatives or traditions. Okay. So for example, if the campus is like really big on sustainability or DEI efforts or service programs, something like that, then you can go ahead and again find out something very unique that's unique to you and the school, and that those pair off. So a pro tip for you is when you're doing a search, let's say if you go bring up Google or so, put the school name, okay? And then what happens is that so you put the school name and then put .edu. So let's say, again, I don't know, I went to University of Illinois.edu, and then put a keyword, like for example, a keyword for the deeper research. So for example, if you like sustainability, then you put universityofillinois.edu slash sustainability, or just put sustainability, and then look for, the different information about that and dig deep. Okay. You guys always hear me say dig deep. That's my phrase. Dig deep, look deeper, find out different initiatives, different programs, uh, you know, um, and try to get more things that are really recent, even as recent as, that up to the point where you were filing your application, because then it's very relevant, okay? Or unless they have something that's been so long lasting and maybe it's a 20-year research project that you really so interested in, that's a good thing too, okay? Thank you for the heart. I saw the heart, so awesome. I appreciate that. Love those. Okay. The next thing is build your connection web. So, this is the thing. Don't just find one thing you like. Find a web of connections that make this school your best fit ecosystem. Okay? So if you're saying, "Oh my gosh, I only like the academics," but you know what? Um, then what happens here is that if, for example, again, if the other things are not very good or there's not really a lot of connection, then it might, when they're doing differentiating you between other students, they might say, well, this student really has more interest because there's more connection. So if you take a look at academics, look at the programs, the labs, the honors colleges, concentrations. If you look at the professional side, look at internships or research centers or co-ops or internships that they may offer, right? Globally, look to see, talk about studying abroad, or maybe certain special tracks, or maybe they have language immersion, okay? Or socially, student organizations, cultural organizations, campus values, okay, mission, or the mission, even a mission, the mission of the school. All of these things, when you kind of connect that's what the whole is, the connection web, and then you form, okay, you form this profile of saying, wow. And what I would say is this, because sometimes the why essay, okay, is very short, like I'm saying, like 100 words or 150 words. So you can't really dive into too many of these. But if you dive and let's say you love the academics and the global piece of it, great. Choose two of those, there's a connection, okay? So, this is how you can connect those two, by looking at the different resources in the schools. And remember, dig deep. Again, dig deep. Find those interesting nuggets that are really, really personal to you. Okay. I remember one student when I was working with them, and he loved, and forgive me for saying this, that he loved the art of the Quetzalcoatl, Quetzalcoatl tribe or something like that. Okay. And it was interesting. And he was digging and he found this interesting, and he was going into anthropology, and he found this interesting, or uh, one of the professors that was doing a research project specifically about that, and he was able to tie and saying, "Hey, I've gotten this interest because there's some family tie to that, and I'm so interested." And that was a beautiful connection, and and that was something that was very unique to him. Okay, and his and his connection with that school. Okay, so if we take a look at now the essay itself. Okay, so we're taking a look at the essay itself. The first thing when you're doing a structure of the essay, okay, is you want to be able to express what your major or career goal. This is really, really important. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of students say, "Oh, I like the school because I like the campus or I like the trees or I like the program." But they never really tell, okay, the readers or the school, well, how does that connect to you? And so that's where you say, my goal is to be a renowned, I don't know, expert at the coral reef. Okay, and again, I'm just giving an example, right? Specifically because the coral reef provides numerous amounts of benefits in helping the medical community find new kind of drugs to cure cancer, something like that. Okay, well now they know what is your major, what is your career goal. Okay. And so with respect to that, now what you can do is you can do the pivot and you can tie that motivation to what the school offers. Okay. And so if the school offers, let's say, an in-depth, let's say, program of marine sciences that allows you to explore your of coral reefs or so, beautiful. Then now there's that connection. And then what you're going to do after that, after you say, so you're say, oh, here I'm at Coral Reef, and XYZ University is amazing because their program focuses on on coral reef development and maintenance, right? And then you go into the details. You list out specific programs, specific resources. You want to highlight 3 to 5 specific offerings, like the courses or the research, the clubs or so, okay? That pivot that I'm talking about there is really link that passion to what the school offers. You put details in 3 to 5. And then at the end, you reaffirm the interest with the fit, okay? So the big thing is this structure, I know looks very simple, but it is the details that will help you shine. Because if you briefly tell them what you're looking to do in your life or what your goal is, your career goal, if you tell them that the school is matching that because of this, you give them the 3 to 5 details, and then now you reinforce that by saying your values and the college values fit very well and perfectly that, guess what? Then you are giving them a very pinpointed, very personal, very specific reason why they should put you into that school. And I always say, again, KISS, right? Keep it simple, right? Sometimes less is more because you don't need to go into all of this theatrics and everything else. You just need to tell them what you want to tell them, and that's how you do that. Okay, so that's the structure of the essay itself. So for example, and this is a really brief example, this is not a great example, but you can see here, I want to study business at XYZ University because it's highly ranked. Okay, well, great. Guess what? There's a lot of highly ranked schools that are highly ranked for business. But if you say, I'm excited to participate in XYZ's globally recognized business ethics curriculum and join the Social Impact Consulting Club to explore the intersection of finance and sustainability. Okay, so you can see that's very specific. And if you start talking about how the intersection of finance and sustainability, and if their program has a very specific program or even a course or maybe a initiative or an internship that combines finance and sustainability, holy cow, they're going to say, wow, this kid really knows what they want to do and it fits perfectly. And if everything else is in line, there you go. You see? So there's the difference in just specifically stating that versus this generic versus specific. You are giving golden nuggets to them about who you are, what you want to do, and on top of that, how you're going to, impact, right? Impact as you become an alumni of that school. Okay, cool. So, what do you want to watch out for? What are the red flags when you're doing this types of essays? Okay. So, first of all, these could negatively affect your essays. First of all, do not use overly flattering tones. XYZ is the best school in the world. Oh my gosh. Okay. They don't want to hear that. The reason why is because most likely they believe that, of course, but you don't need to reiterate that. You need to give them specifics of why, okay? Um, writing what you think they want to hear, okay? Meaning, so that is the wrong way. And I say this about everything. Do not write about what you think they want to hear. Write about what you want to tell them, okay? That's very, very important, okay? Because a lot of times, if you do that, if you're thinking about what they want to hear, then you start writing in generic or vague terms. I just love the campus vibe or something like that. Okay. And then another thing is being too broad or using cliches, which we talked about. But sometimes you try too hard. If you write about something like, "Oh, this is my dream school and I'll do anything to get in," guess what? That is the wrong thing to say when you have an over flattering tone. Okay, it just doesn't work. It's great to be enthusiastic, but it's better to be specific. Okay. So take that as a tagline. It's good to be enthusiastic, but it's better to be specific. Okay. Because they're going to hear this, it's my dream school and I'll do anything to get in. They'll hear that 1,000 times, but they may not hear and they may not hear about the intersection between finance and sustainability, right? That's the difference. Remember, I told you about when you're comparing two students, which one has really done the research and is really matching what the schools are looking for. Okay. So how do you elevate your essay? A couple things, and I know I've given tips already before, but for the research, but here's things. Skim the course catalog or the syllabus or syllabi, multiple, for cool classes that you find. Just read through it, and they have that. They will have those online, just you can see. Skim the course catalog, read about it. And you can sometimes what I've seen, which is gold nuggets, is sometimes they have descriptions that are amazing that you can use literally those descriptions and put it in your essay because it matches exactly what you want to do. Okay. Quote or refer to the mission statement. This is golden because a lot of times, sometimes if you say the mission statement is to serve, something like they'll have something like a lot of schools have that, like, oh, to serve this and this, right? Well, if your school history, high school history, where you had a history of serving the community, or let's say serving the underprivileged community, well, there you go. What better than to have a student that matches the mission of the school by stating the mission statement and then saying, "Hell, well, hey, I have a proven record of doing that and I want to continue," right? Okay. Another thing, mention campus initiatives that align with your interests, like, for example, racial justice, climate policy, innovation hubs. But I will caution you is to make sure don't make this into a political situation where you're really stating what your political stance is. Okay. All you're doing is mentioning what are the initiatives that they've done and what are the things that your goal is to help in that. Okay. And lastly, limit yourself to a few powerful points, okay? And I say this for all things. Avoid this laundry list. Don't just list out all the things that you've done because that's already listed in your activities list. Okay? You want to be very powerful. And I say this again, less is more. Be impactful by using some few powerful points, but don't just list and list and list and list. It is better when the reader can feel that you have a cause, that you have a purpose, that you want to make change, you want to be an impact by stating fewer words and things that are very impactful rather than a laundry list of things. Okay. So that's kind of certain tips there. All right. Hope I'm not going too fast here, but I get excited when I talk about these kind of things, especially essays. I love reading essays, editing essays, writing essays with students. So again, hopefully this is I see a lot of hearts, so thank you so much for giving those hearts because that really helps me in understanding if I'm giving the right information. Okay, so with respect to an action plan, so what do we do? So here's a way to kind of get going with this type of essays. Okay, so for this week, if you are thinking of writing these particular types of essays, try to try this simple process to generate this kind of content. Okay, so first of all, pick 3 of your target colleges. All right. And then what I want you to do is to go ahead and spend about 30 minutes researching each one. And remember, take the research and really dig deep. Don't do the superficial, just general outside the first page. Go 3 or 4, okay? Really be an investigative reporter and try to find the interesting stuff that matches you. And then build a bullet list of 5 highly specific points per school, okay? And then once you do that, now draft one essay using the formula that I just said, picking 3 targets, and just write it, okay? And then what you can do there is, and this will give you the experience of trying to be able to write these essays. Okay, so what you want to do is again pick the 3 target colleges, spend 30 minutes, and then create a bullet list. Okay, of the 5 points, and then use that bullet list to write. And so what I would always do is find one specific point and then match it to the school. Okay, or specific point about you and match it to the school. Okay, and then you draft that essay and there you go. And think about it, if you do that for each of the schools, you've written your why college, and it's the same kind of thing as the why major as well, because if you state this is my major, this is what I want to do, and then you say, well, this is why that major matches because the schools offer this to help me, it's the same thing. Okay, so it's the same process. All right. So, what are some key takeaways? So, what are some final thoughts about this? So, first of all, you guys have heard this already. Avoid generalization. That is the worst thing that you can do with the why essays, because with the why essays, it's one of those things where thousands and thousands of students are just going to be giving literally again the first page of the website. Some of them don't even do the first page of the website. They just say, "Oh, I love the school because, it's a great campus," but never tell them specifics of why. Okay, it is truly important to make it personal and purposeful. Make it personal and purposeful. All right. So, um, the one thing that I always say, and this is not just for the why essays, but for every single essay that you do, you want to make it personal. Okay. And you want to make it that there's a directed purpose for telling them. Remember, the application is the only thing they're going to see. So why waste it on generalities? Why waste it on non-personal information where they won't be able to get to know who you are? And the biggest thing is show fit, not just admiration. Again, I know so many students, I love this school. I'm going to do anything in school. But you want to show the fit. That is out of everything, that I said, you need to make sure who are you, what is the school, and how do they connect together. Okay, if you can show that, then you've done your job with respect to the why college, why major essay. Okay, and it's that simple. And you might say, oh, that's it. Well, but sometimes that's very hard to do. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's really the case with respect to the why college, why essays. So I know this was a little bit of a quicker one, but it really is the case. The why essay is normally one of the shorter essays that are out there. They again normally they ask for like 100 words, 150 words. I don't ever see them go any higher than that. And so what you have to do is you have to be very, very concise in that's why this process, as I mentioned, of the of writing this essay, state your goal, uh, do the fit, tie it together, give them the specifics of why, and then conclude it really quickly. That's the reason why that works, and it's very effective because they're normally very small and short essays. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and now field questions, but if you happen to not be part of our program and you love the information that I provided and you'd like to get more information, maybe of how we can help your student, please book a 15-minute assessment with us, okay? With one of our college advisors. You can put it to this number, 949-775-0865, and send it to book, B-O-O-K, okay, B-O-O-K. Send a text to this number with the word book, and then we will go ahead and contact you and get back with you and set up a time for our college admission advisors to give you a free assessment. So let's go ahead and I'm going to start fielding some questions here. And I want to make sure I get all of these. So forgive me. Let me just do a couple things here. All right. So let's go with the first question here is, how could I make my essays unique to myself for UC schools in which I submit the same essays for all different UC campuses? Okay, so first of all, a good question because we're talking about UCs. The UCs don't have the why college, why major, okay, question. So that's one thing. And it says, how can I make myself unique to myself for UC schools in which I submit the same essays? Remember, what they're looking for is they're not looking for specificity for that college. What they're looking for is they're trying to find out the kind of person that you are. The question inherently that you're asking for is how can you make yourself different, is what you're trying to do now is you're trying to figure out what is the reader, what can I do to you're trying to guess what the reader wants to hear. That's not the way to do it. You need to tell them who you are, okay? And so with the UCs you only have 4 questions that you're going to answer, so you tell them who you are. Don't be so concerned about telling them what you think they want to hear. Okay, remember how we mentioned that in this. So it's really, really important. Tell them who you are. And again, I'm going to give this, and my sons probably kill me when I tell you about this, but I always use this as an example. So my oldest son, everybody probably knows this. If you've been on my training, I've mentioned about my sons, but my oldest son who went to UC Berkeley, his essays were he wrote about beatboxing, anime, hurdling, and refurbishing computers for less fortunate families. Okay. None of that had to do with necessarily the campus. None of that necessarily had to do uh, with his major. But what it did is it gave them the perspective of who he really is. So specifically, because this question is surrounded by specifically UCs, to differentiate yourself is to talk about yourself and be personal and to give them who you truly are and not to focus on what they think you want what you think they want to hear. Okay, so that's how you differentiate yourself. Okay, so hopefully that answered the question of that person. The second one is the why this college essay asked when the student has proceed to the second round after they met GPA? Okay, good question, good question. All right. So the question is does this question, the essay, is it asked in the second round? All right. Typically, typically no. And the reason why I say this is because what happens here, it's funny, someone asked this question in my open office hours yesterday. They said, what is a supplemental essay? And so this is considered the why us, why college, why major is a supplemental essay because it is a secondary essay besides the if you're doing Common App, the personal statement, it is a secondary or supplemental essay that they're asking, which is normally again, why us, why college, why major. And so they will normally ask alongside the personal statement. Okay. The UCs don't, again, UCs now, mind you, the UCs After they have reviewed your essays, the readers may actually ask for additional questions. And that could be considered that. And the reader might, they might ask you, well, why do you want to? So more likely it's the case where it's specific. So for example, if you want to go to the art school at a UC and they say, well, why do you want to do specifically us because of, the kind of art you're doing? So they might ask that, right? But normally, this why college is asked alongside with the personal statement, okay, in the common application. All right, so that's normally what's the case, okay. But you could get a secondary question if you go and this person said second round. Normally, again, a lot of the schools have two readers and then they have a committee review, or they might have a specific review by a professor or a subject matter expert. And so, at any round, the first round, that second round of experts, or the third round, even the committee, they might ask for supplemental information. And that supplemental information could be, well, why are you choosing us? It could be. But typically it's alongside with the personal statement. Okay. All right. Great question. Great question. Is there any more questions from anybody? Any more questions? Okay. What are the rounds of an application? I'm unfamiliar with the term. Oh, okay. Sorry. So let me kind of explain when I say rounds. And I'll give it to you in the context of the UCs because that's something that is very familiar, but also these are kind of typical. What happens here is, first of all, applications come in, right? They're sorted, they do something with the applications. And then what happens is there's typically a first round. And if I say a round, there's one round where they have readers, okay, people who are reading the actual applications and deciding on whether it's a yes, no, or maybe. In the UC's perspective, it's highly recommended, recommended, and not recommended. So you'll have, let's say, a review by two readers, maybe even three readers, who knows? But usually it's two readers. So that's the first round in which they will read it and then they will assess whether it's a yes or a no or a maybe. Okay. So that's the first round. Second round, and sometimes some schools do this, some schools don't. UCs, I know, do this sometimes with respect to if you have a specific major um, that they will, or you have maybe an interesting case. What they're going to do is they're going to review by a subject matter expert, let's say a professor. Normally it's professors. Specifically, if you have, let's say, some that are highly impacted, like engineering or maybe an art professor, something like that. Okay, and then they have another round after that in which maybe it's a committee, because what happens is normally it goes to a committee for final approval. A lot of times, if you have a yes and a yes from a reader, that goes through. If you have a yes and a maybe, then the committee has to decide. And of course, you have a no and a no, then that's also a decision. So that's where we talk about rounds. Okay, there's different rounds because that's the progression of the application throughout the process. Okay. Um, Okay, so the question here was, my kid is right away right now, but she needs to watch this webinar ASP tomorrow. I'm a member. Okay, so we normally put the replays out on YouTube. It takes up to a week. I can try to ask to see if we can get this on. Thank you so much. That actually that really moves me because it seems like a lot of people, you guys love this particular training. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. But we'll try to get this replay out there. Again, these are the kind of things that we do in our program, is helping students write specific types of essays. It seems to me like, and I'm going to ask the question, you guys give me some hearts. If we did these, a kind of a series of these of how to write the Y essay, how to write the PIQ, how to write the personal statement, would you guys think like that? And would you attend the training for that? Okay, cool. All right. So I will tell you there's a very cool thing that we're gonna do. My coach, Coach Anaje, he's one of our great, amazing coaches here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pair off, and I'm gonna actually we're gonna actually write a Y essay live. Okay, so that's the next, not the next one for next week, but we're going to be scheduling it. It's going to be actually in, I think in the beginning of July or so, but we're going to actually write a Y essay live. I'm going to go through, we're going to show you how to do research. We're going to actually pick a school. We're going to research. We're going to act like a student, and then we're going to write it out. So I think that's going to be a very cool one. Look out for that one. Okay. So, I think that's it. If there isn't any other questions, if there is any other questions, I'll call it a day here. But again, remember, if you are watching this and if you're not part of our program and you just want to see more about our program, book a free 15-minute assessment with us by typing in BOOK at 949-775-0865. Text us that, and then we'll definitely have someone contact you. Okay. So thank you so much. Again, I always say this. I am so honored and privileged to have you with me for my trainings. I know that you can choose to spend time with your family, your friends, do other activities out there, but you choose to spend time with me. And I am so privileged and honored and blessed that you took that time out today. So, with that said, thank you so much. I wish you luck in writing the Why College essay. And if you're part of our program, hit us up in Discord. And if you're not, contact us so we can try to help you. Okay. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you in my next training. Okay, guys, take it easy. Bye bye.